big silence.
Welcome to the Big Silence podcast. We get to do it live here in Austin.
We're excited.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Of course, Angie and Mike Lee. I met you on a blind date at Soho House Malibu.
That's right. I forgot about that.
This is like
How
20.
could you forget?
Yeah, how could
No,
you forget?
I just don't remember. Well,
Because Mike goes to Soho all the time.
Yeah,
but
that's his favorite
I've only
place.
been a few
Soho.
times.
I mean, Soho Malibu is a great spot. God, I sound so douchey just starting off this podcast.
So
Just
LA.
pure douche. Oh, let's cut that out.
Or not.
That was
yeah,
like
no.
2018 or 19.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
it
was
was before
when
I moved to Austin.
We both were still living in California, basically. You were you in California?
Yeah, I was in
Yeah.
San Diego, would visit LA a lot, and then moved to Austin in 2021, almost 2021. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been exactly 2 years now in Austin this month.
So, for those of you who don't know, Angie and Mike Lee, not married, brother and sister. So, Angie, we'll get into your story, and you were at the forefront of so much in, I would say, social media, blogging, entertaining, motivational speaking, getting out there, and also going now, I think, a shift in your passion. And then, Mike, you have fought in front of millions at like MGM Grand and beyond, and been at the top of your game as an athlete. So I'm very interested. I'm just going to let this flow with you two. And now you are the founders of Soul CBD, which I love CBD. I know how CBD has helped you, Mike, and with anxiety and depression. And then Angie too. Angie also has ADHD. Yay! Superpower.
Yeah. Big time.
Big time. Where am I right now?
Also a fellow baby grandma.
Yeah. We're squirrel friends and baby grandmas together.
Yes.
We don't want to concentrate on shit and we want to go to bed early.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, they're correlated though, because sleep and ADHD are so correlated. Like if I don't sleep well, I notice my ADHD is so much worse the next day. But when I sleep well, I don't know if you notice this, it changes my entire experience. I'm like, oh, wow, I can actually get shit done and focus today if I really prioritize sleep. So I think that's why I became a baby grandma. Because I noticed intuitively, if I don't prioritize this, I don't show up as a good person the next day.
Yeah. So let's start out with you, Angie. Your career started 13 years ago, or how many? It's a long time. I mean, not career, but like.
Oh man, I'm 33 now. I think it was about 19. It was my first year of college. I remember being in my dorm room, starting to share tips about wellness on social media. I remember you guys were like the OG, of course. I would watch your fitness videos on YouTube and I was like, they're so cool and cute. And maybe one day I'll be a health blogger. They're cool. And so I would give little fitness tips while everyone was out partying at frat parties and getting drunk and having fun with their life. I wanted to make content. I thought it'd be fun to create content. And that's kind of where it all began. And then from there, it turned into events and physical products, digital products, webinars, meetups. It became a lot of different things, affiliate marketing, influencer marketing. So it is kind of funny to think that it all started just from me kind of just shooting the shit and being like, oh, I just want to share wellness with people. And then that evolved into helping women with business and personal development. And now it's more of a lifestyle comedy, personal development brand, I would call it. But it is interesting that it all started when I was 19, which is so crazy because I've changed so much, which I should have.
Yeah,
but
well, of course.
It is weird to think of all the evolutions and the iterations of it when you have a personal brand, you know?
Well, it's good and evolving. I mean, ever since starting Tone It Up 14 years ago, like I've evolved too, and it's become different, different things. And as long as you're authentic to who you are, and then you share your authenticity with everyone else, like then they're gonna respond.
Yeah. It's harder than it sounds though sometimes. Do you feel at all? Because people see you in one light, right? Because people still see you as, oh, why aren't you on the beach doing the bicep curls? And you're like, dude, that is part of me. It will always be inside me, but there's so much more to you.
Yeah.
That's not just you. When I think of you, I don't think of you just doing bicep curls on the beach. You
In
know
a
what I
bikini
mean?
twirling.
Yeah, in a bikini twirling, like all oiled up so your six pack is glowing. Like
I got the tanner on.
Yeah.
Like I don't do self tanner anymore. I don't work out 3 hours a day anymore.
Don't live in Manhattan Beach. Yeah, it's like you change and you're supposed to, but we have this idea that we're not supposed to evolve and change. And especially when your life is, you're paid to be you. It is really weird when you change because you're like, oh shoot, how do I show up for people now?
Right.
Because I don't even know who I am and I'm changing. So what do I say in my content or what do I So that's recently been like my new iteration is like, who am I now in my 30s? Because like I don't really resonate even with 25-year-old Angie and some things. So it's like, oh shit.
I know, because you wanting to shift more into comedy, because I think
Yeah.
in today's society, there's motivational speaking and motivation and entrepreneurship and being a leader in that light. But at the same time, like people need to laugh
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. That's been a medicine for Mike too.
Yeah.
I think I've always loved making Mike laugh. And we love laughing together. We have the same 13-year-old boy sense of humor. We absolutely will just DM each other like random poop jokes and just like stupid stuff that Mikey will think this is funny. He is immature as well. So we've always kind of used that as our medicine, but it's something now that I'm kind of exploring. Obviously, I've infused it a lot into my content more so. And I like it. I like script writing. I like making a funny reel. And I love working with brands when they're like, hey, be as crazy and wild and weird as you want. There's a freedom in that feels so good.
Yeah.
It's a high too, right? I get a dopamine hit knowing somebody's laughing.
Yeah.
At the comment of, hey, I was feeling depressed today and your video made me laugh. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's it. That's
Yeah.
all I want. I just want to know that I could be just that part of someone's day where they felt a little bit better.
Yeah.
Like that's the gift that I think I'm here to do. Honestly, I don't think I'm good at a lot of things, but I'm very clear that I'm here to bring people joy and make them laugh. So I'm constantly coming back to like, what does that look like in this version of myself right now?
Yeah. I think
So.
it's important to, when those say like, you've changed, be like, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. I've grown. And Mike, in your
Yeah.
career, if you can give us a little background on that. And if people are like, but Mike, you've changed.
I have changed. I had about a 10-year career as a professional athlete, a professional boxer. I started fighting at about 8 years old. And just 22 fights later, just realized that it took way too much out of my body. I'm super grateful for the crazy ride that it was. As you mentioned earlier, I got to fight in like Madison Square Garden and MGM Grand and these places that like I'll never forget that feeling of walking out of a tunnel. And it's just very surreal. And it's everything you worked for in that moment. There's 20,000 people there screaming. And, you work so hard for a moment that maybe lasts 36 minutes, like 12 rounds, 3 minutes each. So it taught me a lot. It also gave me a lot of, I think, damage to my body and ultimately why I retired. And in the middle of my career, I was about 12-0, undefeated. I felt on top of the world. I felt immortal. I got diagnosed with autoimmune disease. And honestly, now it's been almost like a decade of dealing with autoimmune issues. And I truly do believe a lot of that was that I was just in fight or flight constantly, given what I did. And I didn't have the tools at the time to know about breath work and mindset and having a healthy mindset, to be honest. And so it brought me to a point where it broke me. I mean, I was in and out of hospitals.
Yeah.
Angie was right there by my side, making me laugh multiple times. And I finally got back in the ring, ended up having 8 more fights, ended up fighting for a world title my last fight, and then calling it quits, which has been a blessing and a curse in a sense, because for anybody who has had a career or a life where it's attached to their identity, the moment it's gone, it feels like a death of yourself. So like I sit here, I've been retired 3 years, 3 years removed. And as much as I don't want to get back into boxing, I still feel this like hole inside me. I still feel like I'm still searching for something that'll give me that same feeling. And maybe it'll never be the same feeling as walking out of a tunnel and that adrenaline rush, but a lot of guys in the military or athletes or anybody just kind of transitioning into something new deal with this. And I honestly still struggle with this now. It's like you had such a purpose and a blueprint and a team and community and identity. And it's most importantly how I received love. And so all of a sudden it's gone and you feel like, well, am I enough if I'm not the boxer? And will people still care about me? And so I still struggle with that. And I think I've done a better and better job of that. And it's taught me some life lessons, but I've learned to kind of give myself a little bit of grace. I think that's important for people to do. I was so hard on myself after I retired. I thought of myself as a quitter, even though my body couldn't take anymore. And so it took some time to get over that.
Yeah, there's a lot of athletes speaking out now, and I understand like this is you. And I even feel that with Tone It Up. Like, where like this is your identity. So you have to learn like that is not you, like who you truly are. But so many people are speaking out about that. And so how have you dealt with that? And has it caused now, so you have the autoimmune disease, which I know you don't remember our first blind date, but we talked about like psoriasis and
Yes.
and all that.
Yes.
Is that a byproduct of your autoimmune disease?
Yeah. I was diagnosed with ankylosing spondylitis, which affects the spine. And
Mhm.
then from there, it was just a domino effect of, mold, heavy metal. I actually recently got diagnosed with chronic Lyme, which is really interesting because now we wonder if that kind of set everything in motion and
Mhm.
caused these other autoimmune issues. Um, but in terms of how I deal with it, I mentioned give myself grace, but the pain that I've gone through, I think, has been such a gift. And I say this all the time because it pushed me into a new way of thinking, like breath work, meditation, even just kind of mindfulness. And I know that word is like probably overused, but just understanding myself a little bit more, actually going to therapy, which I never did like during my career. I always thought that was like a weakness. I mean, my
Mhm.
job was to beat people up. So it was tough for me to be in interviews in ESPN or an HBO fight and sit there and be like, I'm actually struggling with depression, which
Mhm.
I was. I mean, I think I've struggled with depression since I was a little boy. I always knew something was a little off. I remember I was 8 years old and I told mom that I was really, really sad and I didn't know why. And it felt like a gray cloud. I remember being 8 and knowing I
Mm.
felt a little different. And then on top of that, you add concussions and head injuries,
Mhm.
which I think can exacerbate those symptoms. So, during my career, I didn't feel authentic really towards the end because I was dealing with so much pain. I was dealing with depression. They had me on antidepressants, anti anxiety, the whole litany. I was on 8 different medications at one point, and I'm sitting up there in press conferences in front of thousands of people or millions watching, and I'm telling them how excited I am, how great I feel, how this
Mhm.
is the best training camp I've ever had. Meanwhile, on the inside, I'm like dying.
Mm.
So that really didn't feel authentic. So I think how I fixed that was post retirement. I'm now living a much more authentic life. Like me, even talking like this is so much more authentic to me because I mean, can I swear on this? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, like I just don't give a fuck anymore. Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I say that because I used to care so much about what
Mhm.
people thought, and now that I'm retired, I'm not worried about will my opponent think I'm weak? Will the boxing community think I'm weak? Will the TV network not sign me to a new deal because they think I'm damaged goods? I just don't give a fuck, and it's actually given me like a wild sense of freedom.
Well,
Mm.
that's beautiful too, because especially men don't speak about their feelings or what they've been through. And as you said earlier, push it under the rug as you're growing up. And yeah, so I congrats you. Is that the word?
Congratulate, yeah, yeah.
Congratulate for having that voice and speaking up. And so with your depression
Mm.
now, like where is that standing?
I'm off antidepressants.
Yeah.
And not to demonize antidepressants at all. I think for some people it works. For me, I just noticed it kind of just how do I describe it? It made things just more numb for me,
Yeah. Hmm.
and didn't quite move the needle. And I kind of it sounds I used to go to a lot of Tony Robbins
Hmm.
conferences and kind of understand that like depressants oftentimes are just the band-aid. And
Hmm.
while they can totally help people and I support them if they help people, you got to get to the root cause. And so that's what I slowly started doing. So my depression is really, I don't want to say it's completely gone because I still go through a little bit of ebbs and flows, but it's like 90% better. It's so much better since I retired from boxing. And I think that might have been like the huge catalyst for that change was once again me living that inauthentic life at the
Hmm.
time. So the depression and the anxiety has definitely gotten significantly better. Along with there's a bunch of little tricks. Interestingly enough, with nutrition, I've noticed that when I reduce my carbohydrates and I go much more kind of keto esque, there's a lot of studies proving that keto, in fact, helps with brain health and brain function and Alzheimer's and a bunch of different brain related inflammation diseases. And so I started researching that and noticing that my diet would correlate to my mood as well. And so, as good as it feels to eat a bunch of pizza and pasta,
Hmm.
it can
It's in
put
the
me into
moment.
like depression.
Yeah.
It's like you're
Yeah.
happy, then you're not happy. It's a big roller coaster. So yeah, it's doing a lot better now.
Have
Mm.
you ever, Dr. Amen?
Of
Yeah,
course.
Yeah.
we went to go see him
Oh,
and
you did. I was gonna
got
ask.
scans.
Okay,
Yeah.
I
And
was
then we
like,
Yeah.
interviewed him together.
oh, you did. Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
he's
Yeah.
been
about
on
our
the pod too.
results.
Okay, wait, what were your results? I want to know both of yours.
Well, typical ADHD,
Yeah,
type 1. There's 7 different types, I
yeah.
guess. So highly creative, but if there's not a dopamine hit, if I'm not interested in something, it's difficult for me to do it,
Yeah.
right? which I think is a lot of people though. So sometimes I'm like, I feel like every human's like that. And then Mike was, I forgot. I mean, for you, it was just some holes in the,
Yeah.
they make it okay. It looks a lot scarier than it is for anybody taking it. There's like literal holes. They show you
You're
where
like,
this
"Shit."
loss of oxygen, but then it looks like a hole. So you're like, is there a hole in my brain? But I had one even here, and I'm like, what the heck? And he's like, well, did you do any sports? I'm like, yeah, of course. It was a gymnast. He's like, yeah, absolutely. You fell at one point. I'm like, really? I don't remember. He's like, of course. You were a kid rolling around doing backflips. So mine came back with a little bit of that, and then Mike, obviously, it showed that you've been hit, right?
A few
Yeah,
times.
But you
No, I
didn't have
did.
like ADHD or anything. It was more
No.
so
It was spot on, which was wild. A lot of it was lack of blood flow in my prefrontal cortex,
mhm.
and then a few other areas, which kind of made sense in terms of my mood generally kind of being very high. My highs are high and my lows are low.
Mhm.
And so I bought a hyperbaric chamber, and I
Mhm.
think that was really important,
Oh, at
especially
your
getting
house?
hit. Yeah, at my home.
But explain what that does. So you got that to help with.
Yeah, I got that a bunch. They had a bunch of recommendations, a lot of it nutrition based, a lot of it mindset based. But the hyperbaric oxygen basically pressurizes your body, and it forces oxygen into your blood cells at a higher rate. So anytime you're flooding your body with oxygen like that, you're promoting healing. And so a lot of people that have had seizures or even types of autism, anything or brain related, have been getting significant results from hyperbaric treatment. It's been around for decades. And so I actually was using it kind of proactively throughout
Mhm.
my entire career. I had a hyperbaric chamber in
Thank God you were.
Houston in like 2 years in of turning pro, my
Yeah.
like fourth fight. And I just knew, I was like, listen, I want to be articulate. I don't want to be punch drunk. I'm really worried about concussions, but I also want to chase my dreams. So I was in hyperbarics for a long time. And Dr. Neiman actually said that probably is the reason why my given that I had 22 pro fights and so many amateur fights, that my brain actually wasn't that bad.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I'm doing okay.
Mine was worse. No, I'm just kidding. They're just different, which is interesting because I feel we're very similar, but then also very different, our brains.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see that
I
because
know.
we are literally from the same mom, but then we're siblings, but then our brains are functioning and are so different. So it's like the nurture versus nature thing
Yeah.
is always fascinating to me. Like we grew up in the same household, but our life experiences and how we've experienced just trauma and learning. And even in school, we learned so differently. So it kind of is cool to see it on scans
Yeah.
of like, this is you, this is me.
I know. I don't
Oh,
know. I feel like I'm fine. I
yeah.
definitely have like hit my head a lot.
Oh, really?
But well, snowboarding back in the
Oh, there you
day
go.
or stuff like that. But
Yeah.
no,
I
I mean, I
mean,
feel good. I don't know. I guess I'm not like nervous. I don't know why I'm nervous. I'm interested, but then sometimes because I feel like I'm
yeah.
so mentally well that like I don't need to know anything. I'm one of those people.
Mm,
But then
yeah.
my mom had brain scans when I was
Yeah.
growing up, and they could see like mental illness in her brain,
Yeah.
and it's just interesting. And I don't
Yeah.
know.
I think you have to go in and know that the brain is extremely malleable. That was something that he reiterated. And I think is really helpful that they do that and important because when you give someone a verbal diagnosis, I believe it's a little woo, but you're basically saying to someone, this is your death sentence, or this is the
Yeah,
thing that you are.
yeah,
Even ADHD, I think I'm learning like, okay, I talk about it, it's fine, but it's like if you say it so much to a kid or to somebody, it almost makes it worse because you're like, this is you, you're different, this
and
is
then
what's
you
wrong with you. And then I
identify
live
with
up to the
it.
identity
Yeah,
even more because I'm like,
yeah.
that's who I am. So my mom didn't tell me I had it because she didn't want me to think that there was something wrong. So I
So
didn't know. I just knew I was a kid in school that like I didn't want to watch the boring movie while other kids were. And then I was like in the corner, like drawing or something. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So my mom never told me. She never was like, oh, you have this thing. So I think almost knowing that, going in, going, okay, if there is something they see, the brain can heal, the brain can change. Like going in with like a positive mindset before you look at the results. Instead of like, okay, what they tell me is I'm doomed for life.
yeah.
Right? I think that's, I guess, the only way to go into it.
Hmm. Yeah.
I don't know.
So then after you saw your brain
Yeah.
scans, and then like, what do? You're like, oh, well, I
Yeah.
already knew I had ADHD.
True. Yeah, I wasn't super surprised when I had my consult. I think it was more fascinating to learn the different types. And I think it was interesting because there's only so many tools in the toolbox. There's a lot of lifestyle things that I had already been doing, thank goodness.
Mhm.
So, such as, fitness, obviously, like moving my body, physically moving that energy. If I don't work out, I notice it manifests as anxiety or
Mhm.
a lack of focus. Fish oil, healthy fats, eating really well, sleep. Sleep is huge. So there's these fundamentals that aren't as fun as just taking an Adderall, of course, but they're
Mhm.
the really important foundations. So I find that their clinic's great, but they obviously will say to you, "Hey, are you open to medication or not?" And I said no. So then, okay, here's supplementation, here's food, here's lifestyle, learn time blocking, learn how to outsource stuff. Like it gets a little trickier then. You actually have to work harder at it than, oh, here's some Adderall. It'll probably make you feel great every day.
Yeah.
So, so which is fine if people want to be on it, but I decided I don't know if I want to be dependent on something like that every day. That can be intense. It's an amphetamine. There is a new one that came out actually that I actually am considering trying out just a little bit for the first time, to be honest. It's called Strattera. But even that, it's like, okay, now I don't know. I want to see the side effects. I just always want to know, before just like jumping into taking something. So I don't know. It's an interesting one because right now there's actually an Adderall shortage. So many people are looking for it, that it's out. And it feels good. I'm sure. I mean, I've done it a few times. I know I didn't do anything but read a book for like 9 hours. Like it's pretty intense. I felt like I was on crack, but, and I do have friends who are on a very low dosage Monday through Friday and it works for them. But you have to be careful to see if it disrupts your sleep. Because then if it hurts your sleep, now you're in a cycle of, I can't sleep, I'm up at night. So then in the morning I'm taking Adderall because I can't sleep at night. And then that's where it gets really dangerous. So I think we have to look at everything from a holistic perspective of your lifestyle habits, in addition to if you want to also do meds, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
So for someone with ADHD, what is time blocking? What's the advice on that?
Yeah, essentially what time blocking is just funny because we were just talking about how we did this with our podcast, but it's basically you're doing one specific similar task in a condensed amount of time, similar to a sprinter, which is interesting because I was a sprinter. So if you're saying today is, let's say you're writing a book, the person listening is writing a book. Okay, today's book writing day. That's the one thing you're doing. That's the one thing you're focused on. You're going all in for usually they've done studies 3 to 4 hours is the amount of time that a creative can really be in the zone. There's about 4 hours of every day. That's like they call it your peak time that you're in it, you feel it. So let's say I would do 4 hours of writing a book. Okay, the next day is 4 hours of content. Okay, the next day is 4 hours of podcasting. Instead of trying to do a little bit of all of that in one day, which is what I notice I like to be scattered, like a little bit of this, that can actually be worse instead of saying this is what is the focus only for 4 hours. So you're blocking, you're batching.
Yeah.
It's basically batch creating content. Like if you're going to do this, do like a bunch of these in 1 or 2 days, and then your brain gets time off and then you're on and you're off. So it's like the sprinter mentality. I'm not the best at it yet.
I mean,
so,
we try.
Yeah.
And now I know I open up my calendar in the morning and I'm like a scribbler and a note taker and this, and I look at it and I'm like, close.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Now it's getting confusing because
like,
according to the outage, it's like everybody thinks they have it now. So it's like, okay, who sincerely actually has it?
Yeah.
And then I think everything's a spectrum, right? It's like, okay, at certain times of your life, it's going to be worse than others based on your stress levels. I noticed like anxiety and sleep completely change it. Like today I feel good because I slept really well last night. So I feel like I'm here. I'm very present. It's not difficult for me to get something done right now. So a lot of it fluctuates. It's not like linear.
Yeah.
So that's the issue too. When people just label me with it, I'm like, yeah, well, sometimes I don't feel it.
Yeah.
And then my cycle, right?
Well, it's like,
my period. I'm like, And then when I'm not, I'm like, oh.
I mean, that's the important thing too. And just normalizing those feelings because our female cycles or just our lives and there's the highs and the lows and that's okay. And then being able to talk about it more and just like, oh, I feel this coming on. This is how I'm feeling. And if you have a partner, which you both do, letting them know like, hey, Clay is very clear.
We have like little sticky notes and stuff. And, well, you were joking that the superpower of anxiety is you're usually highly creative people. I come up with the weirdest shit and I'm like, oh, my brain will just like think of the weirdest, coolest things. And I'm grateful for that. But also the side effect is a lot of anxiety and shame. Shame. That's the word I want to use, which is really sad because I shouldn't feel that. But there's days where you feel shame about it because you're like, what? Am I stupid? Oh, I'm stupid and other people are smart. There's something wrong with me. And so growing up, I would come from school and feel so much shame. And then when you're in the shame cycle, what do you think happens? You don't want to do anything because you're embarrassed to even try. Because if you fail, then people are like, knew you couldn't do it. It's like a weird cycle that you almost have to break and be like, no, step by step, baby steps. I can do this. Just because the kid next to me could read the instructions or figure it out and I have to grab the box and touch the thing to figure it out doesn't mean I'm stupid. It just means we're different. And so I notice if I get into that shame cycle now as an adult in my 30s, I'm like, stop it. Because like, I don't want to give that to my kids one day. Like this shame. It's like, shame makes it worse. Then I'm like, then I don't want to do anything. Then it's like, I say, screw it, instead of just trying, So that's how it shows up for me, the dark side of it, you could say.
How do you self-motivate, both of you? Like if anxiety comes on or you're feeling a depressive day, do you let yourself rest or do you self-motivate or do you do certain things to...
Well, we talked about it earlier. Angie mentioned how she wants to bring joy to the world and she brings laughter. And I truly believe that's been a great medicine for me. And, it's almost like you fake it till you make it. And once again, I don't have all the answers, but I will say one of the biggest tools that's worked for me when I have high anxiety or especially depression is putting on like comedies. So you know how
Mhm.
like when you're sad, it's easy to like grab a bowl of ice cream or play a sad movie. You want more of it. I do completely the opposite. I watch like Will Ferrell movies. I throw on like bloopers on YouTube. Even like the night before a fight when I was nervous, I would just like watch bloopers on YouTube. Anything that got me laughing. In fact, even when I would come out of the tunnel, every single fight in my career, I would say this. I would say, have fun, baby. Have fun.
Mhm.
I would mouth it and you could see I'd be like, have fun, baby, have fun. And so anytime I was like flowing and having fun, it kind of made me forget about anxiety or depression. So that might be pushing under the rug. I'm not entirely sure, but for me, it's really, really worked. And I think that God put us
Mm.
together too, because in some of my darkest moments, like literally being in a hospital bed, she's come in like a Darth Vader costume and like, you know, into
It
the
was Halloween,
hospital.
okay?
Yeah.
To get some context, I'm not a psychopath.
Yeah. But still, it's just like little funny shit to
Yeah.
make me laugh. And then
Yeah.
it makes me realize like, stop taking this shit so seriously. So
Yeah.
that's by far my biggest tool and my biggest thing that I usually tell people to try out is like force comedy, whatever that is for you, in those moments and just get a little laugh going.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
I love the have fun baby. And it's not pushing things under the rug, in my non-professional opinion, because I've had to walk into many boardrooms and meetings that you're just freaking nervous and like
Mm.
armpits sweating, like,
Mhm.
and you overthink it. But
Mhm.
really, life should be fun.
Yeah.
So if I'm like, I'll take a few deep breaths and I visualize what's going to happen, which as an athlete, I'm sure you did that.
Mhm.
And you're like, just have fun,
Yeah.
laugh, be you, and like
Yeah.
whatever's gonna happen happens. Just be your best self
Yeah.
and put yourself out there. So
That's
I
really
like that.
cool.
Yeah.
When do you feel like you were the most nervous before those events? I know we talked about that nationwide tour you
Mhm.
did, and were those pretty nerve wracking just because you know how much physical exertion you had to do, or
I mean, 15 cities in 30 days is a lot. And Angie, both of you, you've been on
Yeah.
stage,
Yeah.
and like
It's a drug,
you
though.
are.
Feels
it-
good, but then when you get off, you're like, oh.
Well, yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
and I, many years I would call myself just a straight up introvert. Now I'm an extroverted introvert.
Mm.
Ooh, okay.
So I can go up there and I can do everything and like, and connect and I love it. But then I just need to crawl in my little baby mama shell and say bye.
Yeah, for sure.
And
That's a lot of
But-
performers, though.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that about. I mean, gosh, athletes, singers, comedians. Like, if you meet some of the biggest comedians in the world, like they're fucking weird in person, and in the best way. I'm fucking weird, but like they're like very introverted and socially awkward, and people think they're this charismatic person that they are on stage. It's like, no, that's their alter ego. They're embodying this version of themselves. So it's not always that extreme, but you know this with YouTubers or anybody. Like, you meet them in person, you're like, oh wow, you're actually really shy. Like, you're so
Yeah.
different than like, hi guys, welcome to today's episode, and it's like, that's not who she is, which is fine, but it's cool that like people need to know that sometimes is just that who they are for their work, which is a version of themselves, right? It's like an
Yeah.
alter ego.
yeah. And so then when and I'll answer your question about
Yeah.
the hardest part too, but then if you meet someone when they're not on stage or not
Yeah.
performing and like you're at the airport and you're just like,
Yep.
Mm.
and
Leave me alone.
And then someone meets you, and then they're like, "Oh my god, I met Karina. She was such a bitch. Like, she
I got that
wasn't
once.
that girl on stage."
Mhm. Yeah.
You're like, leave me alone. I'm a normal person. I want a hermit right now. Leave me alone.
But I've also
Yeah.
heard like Oprah has said the same thing.
Yeah.
Like,
So then we're fine.
We're fine.
You know what? Our girl Oprah, she's also, when she's off stage. When she's on, she's on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think what Mike said too, I echo the sentiment around sometimes like I just I almost wonder if it's to a fault though. It's like, why are we taking this experience so seriously, right? I always say we're these cucumbers because we're mostly made of water, right? So we're
Mhm.
basically these cucumbers. And then we're rolling around right now. Like, we're hanging out on this ball, this blue ball that's mostly water, like in space. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, it doesn't really matter. Do you know what I mean? Like, it matters, but it doesn't really matter. And so then when I get really sad or anxious or have like a really low day, yeah, I kind of like, this is fine. Like, just have fun. Like, what would be fun right now? Or what would bring you energy,
Yeah.
Because if you take it so seriously, it gets really heavy. And then you're like, this is all so serious and this is going to matter. And it's like, we're cucumbers hanging out on a ball.
That's gonna
I think
be-
we're supposed to just like do what you love, have a good time, be around good people, and like I don't think our brains were meant to take in a lot more than that.
So
I don't know.
This is your new mantra. Have fun, baby. You're
Have
just
fun,
a
baby.
cucumber.
You're just a cucumber. People love that in my audience. I just said it once and now it's like a thing. People will DM me like, Angie, I remembered I'm a cucumber today. So I'm like, oh yeah, girl, you're a cucumber. I don't know. It's
I
like,
can envision
it
like a
actually
little
helps.
like emoji of a
Yeah,
cucumber
yeah.
laughing. We need to make
yeah.
that.
Well, like, when you go into nature or you're on a hike and you see like all the creatures like bugs or whatever on the ground and you see all this stuff going on that's so much bigger than us. And then you're like, oh, and I'm stressed about a stupid email today. Like, come on. You know what I mean? Like it's you think of the bigger picture and it actually helps you to like stress less because you realize it's like part of this big thing. I don't know.
Yeah. So Mike, I think you're asking
Yeah.
what the toughest part of
Mhm.
like maybe like talking about the 15 city tour.
Yeah.
I think expectations and
Mm.
what you're delivering and like,
Mhm.
are you good enough? Are you doing your best? Because I mean, you like, am I doing my best? And then afterwards, you're like, oh, I should have done that. Oh, I slipped
Mhm.
on this word. Oh, I forgot that for me on stage. I forgot that beat. I forgot that move. Like, no, it doesn't fucking matter if I miscounted my squats.
It's just life. It happens. But I could see how that'd be hard.
No, you're right. Expectations.
Aw,
Yeah.
that's
Huge. That you
hard.
mostly put on yourself,
Yeah.
right?
Nobody cares.
Those squats.
I mean, maybe.
I know.
You didn't do enough squats.
I was always more afraid of losing than getting hurt.
Yeah.
I was
oh,
like,
wow, that's deep.
yeah, especially, I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
towards the end of my career, maybe not so much because I was more concerned about my health, but yeah, I was definitely always more concerned about losing than getting hurt. I'd rather get hurt and win.
Because of shame, embarrassment.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like we'll do anything as humans to not feel shame. I've heard it's one of the lowest vibrations. Like you have joy, ecstasy, love, and like one of the lower ones. You know this more than me studying emotions. I guess shame is like really low. There's like anger is actually a step above it. So if you're like in shame, it's like at least get angry because at least that's something. It's an emotion you can like move the energy with. So like feeling like you're shameful or you just being wrong or embarrassed is like the worst.
Mhm.
So that's kind of sad that you were like, I'd rather just get hurt than feel that feeling of. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Damn, that's crazy.
Just
real.
have fun.
That's
baby.
crazy, man.
You're a cucumber.
You're a cucumber.
Cucumber punching each other.
I mean, aren't we like 60% water or something?
No, but
Seven.
Honestly, this is a good reminder for me to like have fun, baby. Like honestly,
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking I need like a sign like that or something because I say this all the time. I said it every single fight. And I forget about it a lot. Like I haven't thought about that for months and months, to be honest.
So do you still have that now starting a business with Soul CBD? Do you put that same pressure on you now?
I think I do a little bit. I try to be a very empathetic leader because I do think that I'm an empath and I do think that can be a superpower. So I definitely put pressure on myself, yes, in terms of the business and find myself doing a lot of the same shit that I was doing during my career, which is comparison syndrome and, oh, we're crushing it. We did this amount this year, but I just heard this company did this amount, and then I compare myself to that founder. But I'm very proud and I've done more and more a better job of kind of stepping back and taking kind of those expectations off. I think it's a blessing and a curse for a lot of people because in a way it keeps me pushing. It keeps me motivated. I always want more, but it's like, how do you tame that dragon, so to speak, versus wanting more and not letting it kill you? And I think entrepreneurs always kind of entrepreneurs, artists, like anybody kind of creative as well, deal with that.
All right. So you have both being an athlete and being in the fitness industry because you were in the fitness industry
Yeah.
before, and explain that.
Oh, yeah.
right?
I did a lot of bikini competitions,
Mhm.
fitness
Oh, gosh.
modeling, ate chicken breast every 2 hours on the
asparagus?
clock because I thought my metabolism would die if I didn't. Some asparagus, maybe 6 almonds if it was like a high fat day, and just depleted my body. And then would do like 2 hours of cardio on top of that just to get shredded. Because I thought that's what you had to do to be healthy and
Yeah.
to be liked and to be loved and be fit. And now I'm like, oh my God, it's insane. It was bad. It was not healthy.
Yeah. No, Kat and I did
Yeah?
in the beginning of Tone It Up. We did Miami Bikini Universe.
I remember that. Oh my gosh. I remember you guys were like, we'll never do this again.
We were last place.
but But
guess
it's sad
what?
because you guys like
That's stupid.
rocking bodies. So like if you got last place, like who got first? Like come on, that's
That whole system's so subjective. It's just like,
Oh, yeah.
you know what I mean?
yeah, it's just
Really?
random
Like,
dudes judging you on your butt
yeah,
cheeks.
it's so
And like how developed your glutes are. And you're like, dude, I've dieted so hard to get here. I can't even see straight. I haven't had a blueberry in 6 months. And this bro's like, don't look good. And I'm like, oh, and then I spent $1,000 on a sparkly bikini suit.
Oh my God, no, I
and these
hand-
heels. I'm basically a stripper.
Yeah, exactly. I bought stripper heels. I put sequins on a bikini.
Yeah.
Kat and I were flying to Miami, sewing our bikinis, eating chicken and asparagus. And the guy there were 3 rows. This young boy was next to us, like, what is happening?
Yeah, he's like, are you guys going to Vegas? No, we're going to go show our muscles on stage. And
yeah.
like,
So let me get this
I
straight.
definitely had orthorexia, which is like, I thought it was healthy, but I went too far. But also then it messed up my idea of like, what is health and overtraining
Yeah.
and like, just, my adrenals were shot after that for like years. It was just not good.
Shout out to anyone who does competitions.
Yeah, take time off. Just like get your metabolism I don't know. Just ask yourself why you're doing it. Maybe that's I don't know. It's cool if you're doing it for the right reasons. You're like, I want to see if I can do this. But what happens is I did that once, but then it doesn't
mess with your
what it started
head.
as it doesn't evolve as. It started as a good intention. Let me see
Yeah.
how fit I can get. Let me see. I'm already a fit person. Let's go. And then by 9 shows in, you're like, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm addicted to this thing to get approval because then I post a picture of me and then people click like and then they comment, ooh, you look so good. Oh my God, I better keep doing it. I better stay lean because then people won't like me. People won't love me. Okay, I'm going to go do more cardio. And then you're in this system where you're like, what am I even doing anymore?
Yeah, and then you have to unfuck your brain of like, what? Then there's like that roller coaster of like, you have to lose all the weight and get lean. And for
Mike, no.
yeah, I was like looking at
Mike's
Mike.
like, please
I'm
don't even bring it up, PTSD. But as a woman, it's
Dude.
like, women are not meant to be that lean that long. We're just not. Like, oh my gosh. I mean, unless you naturally are that. But if you're like that, you don't need to be shredded 24/7. That's so weird. And then you had to do it all the time too. So then when he started doing it after I was done, I was like, oh my God, that feeling of being hungry and thirsty.
That was the worst part.
Being thirsty is the
thirsty
worst.
and
When
you
you have to
can't drink
dehydrate.
water.
Oh, I remember they had to dehydrate the night before. And I was like, I think being extremely thirsty is almost worse than being hungry.
It is 100%. That was the big thing that gave me issues because most of what you do when you're cutting weight as a fighter is water weight at the end.
Yeah.
That asparagus, it'll do it.
My last fight, I had to lose 32 pounds. Yeah, I mean, I lost like 11 the week of the fight. It's not fun.
Guys, don't do that. Anyone listening, be nice to your body. Be kind to your body.
Yeah. Okay. So now, in your past fitness world,
Yeah.
how do you manage what do you do for fitness now? What is your nutrition? What do you focus on?
I mean, honestly, I have fun, baby.
Yeah.
Like,
Pickleball. You play pickleball?
Oh, I was like,
yeah.
You surf?
No,
Yeah.
all I do for exercise now is things that are fun. So pickleball, basketball. I'll lift maybe here and there, but just pickleball, basketball, surf when I lived in California. No, anything that I'm having fun now, right now.
Yeah.
I'm in that season where I'm like, that's what I do. And then nutrition, I definitely don't kill myself anymore. Like if I want to have a treat here and there, I will. But I've just noticed for me, mental health, and especially with autoimmunity, that when I go gluten-free, dairy-free, usually closer to paleo, and reduce my grains and carbs and go high in fat and protein, which is actually similar to what we did when I was cutting weight towards the end of my cycle before a fight, I just feel better. So it's more of like not myself on a strict diet, but like I just don't want to feel like shit tomorrow. So I'm going to say no to that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say I focus a lot on blood sugar management. I'm really into that. I think that has been shown. If you focus on blood sugar, you can fix and or keep a lot of things working, like whether that is focus or fat loss or any of those things. So I'm always focusing on protein, balancing blood sugar, staying really hydrated. I walk a ton. I love walking. Walking for me is like, I call it nature's EMDR, which is basically, you probably know about EMDR, right? Which is essentially a type of therapy they do. And I guess CBT therapy, right? Where you click and you tap stuff. They've shown that the person who invented it, the reason they've
invented walking?
No, the man who invented walking. No, the psychologist who invented EMDR.
Oh.
They showed that she noticed that it's similar to the motion of the cross. What is the term? I guess when your arms are doing the opposite,
Yeah. There's
it stimulates parts of your brain.
if you're listening and you want to know more about EMDR, I always refer to Gabby Bernstein's podcast on the Big Silence. She goes deep into it, and it's I'm terrible at explaining things, even though I've done all of it. I'm like, go over to the experts.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Walking, as silly as simple as it seems, has been such a interesting therapy tool for me. It's where I get all my ideas. I voice myself notes. If I'm sad, I'm like, I'm going to go on a walk. Lately, I've been doing this thing where I go on silent walks.
Mhm.
It's trippy. No song, no music. Don't call anyone. Don't text anyone. Don't do anything. It's so hard the first 5 minutes. And then you're about 15 minutes in and you start to really like be with yourself. And you're like, oh, whoa, this is what I'm actually sad about. Or this is what's going on. There's a guy who wrote the book, The 12-Hour Walk. I'm going to do it. Where you go out, you grab a backpack, and you grab your phone for safety, but you just find a thing and you go for 12 hours silent. And so you're out in nature. It's not like you're in the dark or anything, but you just do it. And he says by the end of 12 hours, people's lives are changed and it's free. You just go on a walk for 12 hours. And by the end, you're like, whoa, I just like felt all this stuff I didn't know I was feeling. And like, it's just like really cool. So walking's been huge. And then dance. I love dance class. Dance class gets me hype. And I just like, I'm like,
Yeah.
let's go.
Isn't it like being in silence, how calming it can be?
I've never
And
been on a walk for 12 hours in silence though. So I don't know yet.
The most in silence, like silent meditation, the longest I went was 4 hours once.
Yeah.
And like, it was incredible.
Did you feel like you went through the waves of, okay, this is awkward. I don't want to be alone. And then, ooh, this feels good. And then, you went through the.
Well, it was at the Kyle Cease retreat.
Oh,
yeah. And
that's
it was
so cool.
like 5.
I still need to.
5 days. And so every day he talks and, he's into comedy and self-development. And then a lot of it is in silence. And you're in a group with like 200 people and we're all just sitting there quiet.
See, the power of walking though is cool because then you're doing the opposition for your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you're stimulating parts of your brain. You're out in nature, you're getting fresh air. So I like the idea of this more than just like sitting there still for 12 hours. I would just stare at a wall. Like, what am I going to do?
Yeah, close, like...
So at least this, I won't feel like I'm going as crazy, but I'm excited to do it. I want to do it like in the next few weeks and like grab my phone, put it on airplane mode, tell everybody what I'm doing. And I'll be like, see you at 12 hours, bring some snacks.
So
water. What'd you notice? Why'd you like it? I'm curious why you feel like it was so incredible.
So I always quote Kyle on this, where he always says, if you can't sit with yourself in silence, how do you expect anyone else to sit with you? Mm-hmm. And and Bobby and I went to this retreat twice together, and it was at Silomar in Northern California. And the first day, we're like, I can't do this. This is terrible. And then it's like 24 hours in silence where we had a date in silence. And it was like one of my...
Wait, what? What do you mean? Like you're sitting there eating food?
We went back to the Airbnb.
That's how my dates are now.
Yeah. Oh, that's not how dates are supposed to be. Yeah.
No, but like we weren't supposed to talk for 24 hours. And so we went back to Airbnb, grilled food, sat on the porch. It was in Monterey Bay. There was a rainbow and we'd be like pointing.
Did you do it? You didn't break at least once?
No.
Did you laugh though? Like you'd stare at each other and laugh?
No, we would just like...
No
point.
Phone. Did you have electronics?
No, I had my phone. Bobby actually ziplocked his phone up for 5 days.
Wow.
And you couldn't write them a note and like, no, it was like, let's see how we just interact without verbal language.
And it was very calm. Like typically, maybe at the end of the day, if we're like talking and talking and talking and filling time with words, and then maybe it will turn into a disagreement or a just a little it was quiet and we just looked at each other. We looked at nature. We sat on the porch. We ate food. We smiled. It was so peaceful.
Wow.
So it was day 1 and day 2 were hard. Day 3, it was like, okay. Day 4, we're like, wow, I don't know what it was. Like just being able to sit with self and feel like and quiet your mind. The longer you sit in silence, you quiet your mind and you train your brain. And then by day 5, we're like, we're signing up for the next one.
Wow.
It was just
That's cool.
Like I entered the retreat at a level at 1 out of 10, like a 12 of anxiety and like just stress. I left at maybe a 1.
I'm going to say that to Clem and say, hey, we're not going to talk for the next 24 hours. He's going to be like, awesome.
Thank you.
Shut up. Thank
you.
you. Wow. He's going to love this recommendation. This is going to be great for our relationship. That's crazy. I don't think any couples have really gone 24 hours. Like they're just right there and you're just like making the food. Just like.
And it's hard for Bobby because Bobby likes to talk. So
did he forget at moments, like want to break it or no?
Probably. Like if you're watching on YouTube, we're speaking in silent.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay, you're gonna have to send me his because you've told me a lot about him. I've heard a lot about him because people have said he was like a comedian and then went into personal development or whatever. But
yeah, he's on the pod too. You should listen to the podcast.
I want to hear him.
Yeah,
that's cool. Wow,
he's great.
Are you gonna do that, Mike? 4 days in silence?
I would struggle with that.
I feel like you could do it.
I would really struggle.
Oh, I feel like you could do it.
And maybe it's like I need to distract myself, but I have trouble sitting in silence.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mind just starts racing too much.
Well, so actually, Deepak Chopra, in case you don't know who Deepak is, he's doing his last and final retreat here in Austin at the end of the year, and it's Silent Awakenings, and it's here
Wow.
in Austin. So
That's cool.
That is
you
cool.
want to go give it a whirl.
I mean, even in the car, I heard try this practice where the next time you're in your car, just drive the car. Just like be with nature on a nice sunny day. Sometimes I'll do it. Even like the last 10 minutes here, it's really cool. You get to a place of peace. You're like, wow, this is like the 90s. You like feel old school. You feel cool. You're like, ooh, yeah. This is like before you had a phone where you're like, you're like voicing someone, listening to a podcast. Like you're stimulating your brain so much. So
Yeah.
I think it's really good for us. We probably should be doing it like every day.
Yeah. So let's talk Soul CBD a little more, or just Soul.
Yeah.
Mike gave me a new product for
Yeah.
hormones. Who did you collab
Oh, yeah.
with?
Dr. Jess Petras.
Yeah. I left
She's
it
a
in the
great
house.
doctor in the space, comes from a very like holistic view, even though, she is a doctor. But yeah, we started Soul CBD, which we're now kind of repositioning to just Soul because we're offering a lot of different wellness products that don't have necessarily cannabinoids in them. But we really offer natural solutions to anxiety, sleep, and pain. And we started it as like a little side hustle, just wanting to help people. Honestly, I had my career. I still had one more fight left. She had her career. We didn't plan on like it growing to how it grew, but I just knew I became obsessed with CBD. It started helping me with anxiety. It actually helped me get off of lorazepam that I was on, and it just calmed me down before like press conferences and helped me sleep. And so I started diving into that world through my autoimmunity already in terms of working with some of the best nutritionists and doctors in the world to help get me ready. And so it was through there that we kind of was the genesis of the company. And we started with, CBD oils and gummies. And now we have an entire supplement line that helps with anxiety, sleep, pain, focus pills for ADHD. They have a bunch of adaptogens and nootropics. And so I'm really proud of the fact that we've expanded this wellness line, and we have like thousands and thousands of testimonials that come in from people talking how we've helped them, or they can finally sleep, or they can finally take a breath. And it's so cool. Once again, like I do believe pain is a gift, and we wouldn't have started this company if we both didn't deal with that type of pain. And we've always just been huge advocates of let's try to find natural solutions to this first, and let's leave the pharmaceutical option towards the end, because I've gone the pharmaceutical route aggressively first and just gave me so many side effects and things got worse. So I just like offering a ton of tools in the tool belt, not that one is going to fix it, and not that like you just take a little CBD and all your problems go away, but it's a big
helps.
piece of the puzzle for me, but it helps. Yeah. But it's cool because, CBD and hemp is what we derive all of our products from. It's been around thousands of years, and it's really only recently cannabis in general been demonized, and really because of money. It's because it's a plant that grows from the earth, and most of the time that jeopardizes the pharmaceutical industry, to be honest. And so we're starting to see cannabis being lifted. We're even seeing psilocybin, mushrooms, like that whole movement. I can go on and on about that, but I'm really proud that we're kind of like a part of this mission to make it less taboo, and for people to like truly understand what it is, and how it's activating the endocannabinoid system, a system that's been known about for years. Like I know CBD just came on the scene, but people need to know that it's safe. It has no toxicity. There's been PubMed studies done that has no liver toxicity. You can't even say that about Tylenol. So to have low risk, high reward options that are plant-based, I think is really important. And I'm glad that more and more people are showing the world that it's a possibility.
Yeah. Good stuff. Tastes good.
Yeah. I was like, you
And
just
it-
nailed it.
Yeah. And he's like,
I was like,
"That's it."
damn.
And it's tasty.
I was like, yeah, it's delicious. It's funny because we thought we weren't going to do gummies at all.
Yeah.
I remember I
Everybody
said it on an
loves
episode. I was like,
gummies.
we're never going to do gummies. Like, we probably won't do that. And now that's like our big focus is gummies, and everyone loves their gummies.
Yeah.
I think it's the delivery system.
Yeah.
People want it to be delicious, which makes sense. They want to be able to develop that habit. But yeah, I mean, CBD can be used in so many different ways, which is great. Anxiety, sleep, pain, period cramps, now the focus caps. So it's very fascinating that it can be that versatile, because there's not
Yeah.
a lot of plants that you can say can kind of help just inflammation in general like
Yeah.
that.
Well, I mentioned psoriasis earlier because I put
yeah.
CBD. I actually, you can't see my flare up is going away. I had a huge, like, on my jaw, like everywhere. And it's now I've been sitting ever since because I was traveling for 3 weeks. And then I got home and I just sit in front of my red light.
Yeah.
And then, like, poof.
No
it's
way.
gone.
I
Wait,
love
what-
the red light. I've been getting
Yeah.
great results out of it too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Should I get a red light?
Yeah.
It's like the one biohack, but I'm like, oh, I don't know.
No, for your skin, get
Really?
that collagen going. No, but for
Okay.
inflammation, it's
Just
great.
sit in front of it.
I the
minutes?
past 4 days, I go in the sauna with the red light, and I'm just like heal my neck and my scalp, and even like I don't know if you can see a little my eye. I had it on, but I mean
Wow.
I haven't had an outbreak for a few years. and it
What will
just-
bring the outbreak on? What do you think it is?
stress?
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
interesting.
It is.
Okay, it's
and-
mental.
and
And then
so-
it's causing a physical.
Right. And then I
manifestation.
was traveling so much. And then
Wow.
I got
Diet.
home. Yeah. So
And
that
traveling,
changed.
yeah.
And, and then I come home and I sit for 20 minutes by myself in silence
Mm.
in front of the red light and I meditate. And so
Mm.
I'm calming myself down.
Yeah.
And then I'm in the red light. And then I go into the cold plunge. That.
Wow. Yeah, I was
that
just
stuff.
curious if if you've seen a correlation with your flare ups of like
I
high
always,
stress moments, and then all of a sudden your skin starts
Mhm.
reacting
Oh,
to
yeah.
it.
My skin reacts.
Wow.
That's where it shows for
So
me.
fascinating.
Yeah.
I think that's why CBD in general can affect so many different things because people get confused. They're like, well, how could it help with pain, but it also helps with anxiety and inflammation? But ultimately, what it's doing is it's calming down the nervous system. It's putting the nervous system into homeostasis. So whether that's meditation, breath work, laughing at a comedy, anytime that you're getting out of that fight or flight and into the parasympathetic, the rest and digest and heal, I think, I just know for me with autoimmune issues, like any type of modality that can get me out of that stress, even beyond CBD, just helps a trickle down effect of so many other health issues, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you all still have the topical or do you
Yeah.
have, you do? Okay.
Yeah, we have topical.
I used to get psoriasis on my armpits, and then I learned it was only on one armpit. Story time. And so it was really bad. And so I stopped wearing deodorant and I put topical on my armpits and it got rid of the CBD. But then I realized I didn't have BO anymore. So I was
Oh,
just
you put
stopped-
topical CBD and it
on
got rid of the rash.
Yeah. And then I realized because I wasn't putting
Oh, but you still
deodorant on,
smell?
I did not smell.
Mm.
I had no BO. So now I haven't worn deodorant in 6 years. Yeah, I've told this
Like the
story.
height of stress of toning it
Height-
up or something?
No. Early
Oh, it was
20s
before.
wasn't, that was, my childhood and
Oh,
mom
yeah,
and
yeah.
this and that. And so I've told this story and I wrote about it in my book too. But like I went to the doctor because it was like months of just like this major rash. And the doctor was like, "Are you stressed?" I was like, "Yeah, I am." And she's like, "I'm not going to give you any prescriptions." She's like, "I want you to start doing yoga. I want you to meditate and I want you to lay out in the sunshine and get vitamin D." And I was like, okay, well, I can't afford yoga. That's expensive. So I volunteered at a yoga studio in the valley
Yeah.
and I would lay at the beach just like, and it healed it.
Wow.
And she's like, you just need to reduce your stress.
What a
And
cool doctor.
I know, right? And
Yeah.
this is a free clinic in Hollywood when I was
Wow.
like 21 years old.
Our bodies just don't like stress. That's like
Yeah.
the number one thing. After, I don't know if you've realized being in personal development, the health industry, just everything. Like if I had one thing that I'm like, what have I learned in like 13 years of being obsessed with it or studying it or hearing Mike's experience? It's like, it's just all fucking stress. Like if you can figure out that first, then other things don't pile on all the other physical ailments, right? Don't you agree? It's like all stress.
It's a huge aspect of it. Yeah.
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 It's huge.
I mean, but stress is going to be in your life. It's just having the tools to
Yeah, I
manage
guess you're
it
like,
and being like,
yeah.
okay, I'm stressed.
Mhm.
How am I going to
Yeah, I
manage
guess
it?
whenever
What are my
stress-free,
tools?
But
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
It goes without saying it'll happen, but it's how you react to it and how
Yeah.
you heal from it.
Yeah.
Well, y'alls, I got to drive my tour bus to
Oh, yeah.
Coda.
That's fun.
Really?
Yeah.
Sick.
MotoGP this weekend.
That's
Nice.
awesome.
Bobby's probably in the driver's seat, like honking the horn right now.
Yeah. Let's go.
He's like, let's go. I love how much fun you guys have together. I feel like you guys have like always do fun stuff.
Yeah.
Like traveling. Like you're always doing something fun together, right?
We are.
That's good. You should do an episode on that because I think that is the secret to an awesome
Yeah.
relationship is that you guys have fun together.
It is awesome. We do a lot of fun things
Yeah.
and take advantage of, not advantage, just the joys in life and make sure we're just having fun.
Being kids together.
Just have fun, baby.
Just have fun, baby.
Don't be stressing. You're a cucumber.
All right. Thank you, Angie and Mike, for being on the pod.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The big silence. The big silence.